Hey folks, welcome to Sammy Speaks. So I'm glad that after the first two episodes you're still here and ready to listen to the third episode. In this episode, I am going to be in conversation with Dr. Anjabeen Ashraf, who is a mental health professional. Her detailed introduction is something that I cannot do justice to, and that is why I'll leave it for her. We are going to talk about Ramadan and mental health. So, because this topic is something that is very close to my heart and it is something that is very important to pay attention to. So, the further coming questions and answers are, I hope, going to help you understand what the concept of Ramadan actually is and how it is supposed to be beneficial for your mental health and not, degrade your mental health. So, yeah, let's begin.
Hey, Assalamu alaikum everybody. This is Dr. Anjabeen Ashraf. I am a mental health counselor, an educator, an activist, and a researcher based in the USA. And I'm so happy to be here with you all today to talk more about mental health, especially during this time of the pandemic and during Ramadan. So I know that there's some questions that Sammy wanted me to answer. First one is, what are the major emotions experienced by Muslim as the month of Ramadan, during the month of Ramadan? And what I'm seeing from clients, from my work on social, is that we are feeling a mix of emotions. We're feeling the general joy we feel when Ramadan is happening, the closeness to Allah, the ability to refocus on different habits and closeness with our Creator. But I'm also seeing a sadness because we are losing the sense of community that many of us cherish during the month of Ramadan. And this is coming out as grief, this is coming out as sadness, it's even coming out as anger. And then also I'm seeing a lot of anxiety. I think Ramadan is not easy for everybody. We all have different ways that we feel going into Ramadan and during Ramadan, and that's okay. And now being in quarantine where we are less able to use the regular coping tools that we could use when we're not in quarantine to manage our anxiety. So I am seeing increased and heightened anxiety. And the next question is, during Ramadan, our sleeping and eating patterns change to a great extent. How does that affect our mental health? Yeah, we're getting less sleep in Ramadan. Yeah, and less sleep can really affect our mood. It's really hard to be happy, positive, even productive when we are tired. Our brains and our bodies are really just surviving at that point. So I think it's really important that if you are able to get more rest. And maybe that's one of the pros of being in quarantine right now is we are at home, so maybe we can take small naps between things if we're working, or since we're not commuting back and forth from work, we can sleep in a little, or we can take a nap before iftar. I think it's really, really important that we get some sleep. It's foundational to our functioning. And then eating patterns, making sure we're eating enough is so important. Just like sleep, we need fuel to function. And if we don't have enough fuel, it's going to be really hard to manage our mood and manage our thoughts. I see people that struggle around food really struggle during Ramadan because there's a lot of diet culture that has invaded Ramadan, unfortunately. And diet culture is really the set of beliefs around our worth being tied to our weight and the desire to control our weight and our body. I bet you've heard certain rhetoric around Ramadan saying things like, oh, I can't wait till Ramadan's here, I'm going to lose some weight, or I don't want to eat too many samosa because I don't want to gain weight, right? And then what happens on Eid day? Everyone is comparing who lost more weight, and everyone looks great, not because of the beautiful outfits they're wearing, but because of the weight they've lost. Yeah. So I am seeing more anxiety around people who struggle with food. struggle with restricting food, struggle around people making unkind comments about their eating and their weight during Ramadan in a pandemic. And so I'm going to encourage us to sit with that and see in what ways have I internalized that my weight and the way that I look and how that's tied to my worth. Because the truth is, the most interesting thing about you or me is not our weight, is not the way we look, right? We have so much more richness to who we are. We are human beings. We are career oriented. We are creative. We are loud. We are quiet. We are funny. We are thoughtful. There are so many things that are more interesting about you or me than our weight and the way we look. So please get enough to eat. If we take judgment away and just notice what we're eating, we'll be in a much better headspace. You'll have so much energy back if we're not trying to control our bodies or the food that we eat. During Ramadan, there is a constant pressure to do only good things and avoid the bad ones completely. How can one cope with these extreme expectations? Yeah, I think sometimes during Ramadan, there's this culture of perfection, right? And I don't think it's Islam that's telling us that. I think it's our communities that are telling us that, right? How many of you have heard the rhetoric that, oh, it's Ramadan in quarantine, you have no excuse now, right? You're at home, you can do all the prayers and then some. You can finish an entire reading of the Quran. You can do this, and this. And listen, if you want to do those things because they make you feel good, alhamdulillah, go for it. But if you're doing those things because you feel like you have to, it's probably not going to make you feel great. And the desired goal of doing those things, right, according to the Sunnah, is to feel closer to our Creator, to feel closer to Allah. But if we're operating in this kind of perfectionist mentality of all or nothing, then we're probably not feeling closer to Allah, right? Or maybe we feel closer for a little bit, but then the next thing comes and, oh my gosh, I have to do that thing perfectly. Otherwise, I'm going to feel terrible about myself. So that all or nothing thinking is not really helpful to us. And I don't think that is what our Creator asks of us. Because truly, according to the Islamic perspective, what is the only being who is perfect? Allah. And so we can strive, right? Ramadan is about striving, but that's very different than expecting perfection. So one thing I like to ask people, if we look at all or nothing as a continuum or opposite sides of a continuum, there's a lot of life to be lived in the middle. So I like to ask, what's in the middle? What's in the gray area, right? And that's where we kind of live our fullest lives. That's where we are able to show self-compassion, self-love, and set goals that feel good for us instead of what other people want me to do, what I feel like I have to do to be X, Y, and Z way. And if we don't accomplish those goals, we don't completely beat ourselves up over it. So I'm going to encourage you to ask yourself what's in the middle when you feel like you're falling into this all or nothing that happens during Ramadan sometimes. How do you suggest we take care of our mental health during this month combined with the uncertainty and fear of the pandemic? Number one, please get more rest. I talked about this earlier with the sleep, but just in general, even though we're at home all day, and you're thinking, gosh, I'm at home all day. Why am I tired? Because being in a pandemic, coping with this uncertainty takes energy, and that is depleting you. And so you're gonna feel more tired. Then on top of that, you're fasting, you're not getting calories, you probably are operating on less sleep. So the best thing you can do for yourself is rest. That is an act of self-compassion, of mercy, which is what Ramadan is about, which is what Allah is about mercy. And it's so much easier to have mercy for other people than it is for ourselves. But I'm going to challenge you to do that this month. So number 1, take care of your mental health by resting. Number 2, take care of your mental health by reaching out for support in different ways, right? This could look any kind of way. I'm obviously biased, but I think everyone should have a mental health professional. If you don't have that, then maybe some friends whom you really trust to listen and not judge, family members. 3, take care of our mental health during Ramadan by doing things online that we might have done in person, right? Like maybe you do a virtual iftar, maybe you do a virtual Quran study. Any number of things can now be done online. And I know it's going to be different than doing it in person. And it's better than not doing it at all and feeling really isolated. And then number 4, to take care of our mental health during Ramadan, I would recommend that we really use this time of reflection, which is what we do during Ramadan, to focus in on what are the stories that I've told myself about myself, right? And these are also called negative self-beliefs, core values. And so lean into those. Like, what are you noticing? Do you have a lot of negative thoughts about yourself? Are those true? And usually they're not, because they're irrational thoughts. And so this might be a good time to start to keep a journal and see what the negative thoughts are, and then learn to challenge them, because you don't have to believe everything you think. Yeah? So you can learn to start challenging those thoughts about self and your place in this world. And once we can do that, we can really change the way we experience this world. And once we do that, we can move through this world differently, which means we can learn to challenge systems that are not helping our mental health or the mental health and wellness of others. Thank you, Sammy, for having me on your podcast. I appreciate the space you're holding for all of us and talking about mental health more. We all have mental health, period, right? Just like we have a body, we have mental, emotional health. And sometimes it struggles. We struggle with it. And so just like you would go to a medical doctor, you would go to a hakim, it's okay to see someone for your mental health. And I hope that as an ummah, we can move towards normalizing it. I really want us to be talking about, I'm going to go see my counselor, as easily as we talk about, I don't know, like what Eid outfit we're going to buy, what we're going to make for dinner, etc., etc. We need to destigmatize it and take away the shame from that, because there is no shame in seeking help and living a joyful, fulfilled life that honestly is your birthright. You don't have to earn it. All right, everyone, take care. Salam.
So guys, that's about it, and it's the end of the episode. I hope you all had as much fun as I had, gaining all the knowledge and looking at things from Dr. Anjabeen's perspective. So yes, I hope this is going to be beneficial for all of us, and have a blessed month of Ramadan. For those of you who are not fasting or not able to do all the good deeds that you are supposed to do, it's okay. Like Dr. Anjabeen said, Ramadan is about striving and not perfection. Stay tuned for more episodes, guys.